Hi, I'm Lauren. Welcome to my craft room. I am starting a new series this month for my interactive element, and I'm going to be using wobblers. For my first of this series, I'm going to be creating this fun little Quacky birthday with a little wobbly duck. Isn't he cute? I'm so excited to share with you how I put this together and a fun month of wobble cards. Let's take a look at all the supplies I used. I have the scallop on this darker blue cardstock, the second largest wonky stitch rectangle on a lighter blue, as well as my grass and cloud edger dies for some grass and clouds, and then I'm using the sun from the up in the clouds, as well as a quick strip for my sentiment, and that is all of my die cuts, believe it or not. We're going to be using this upside down duck from this very cute duck set from Whimsy Stamps. You can find everything down below in my description of what I used. Now I used this scrap piece. I like to die cut sentiments out of the middle of my cardstock pieces. These are from scrapbook.com, as it allows me to use them as a background piece without me feeling like I wasted too much of my paper. So I glued that directly down to one of my card bases. I'm going to start assembling my little cloud and grass scene by gluing the dark green grass to my light blue sky cardstock here. I use kind of the hill-like grassy die cut. And then my first layer of clouds is actually out of some Lawn Fawn Pearlescent Vellum. I absolutely love this when layering for clouds on my scenes. It adds a little bit of sheen, but is a perfect layer when you're making 2 layers of clouds with white cardstock. Now I'm going to pop up the next layer of grass and clouds. So my lighter green grass here are getting some dimensionals, and then I am also going to put it onto my white clouds. This is when I remembered that I wanted to stick that sun under my clouds so that way it looked like it was peeking from behind a little bit of a cloudy sky. So I'm going to do some doctoring of this sun die, and I'm going to have to lift my pearlescent vellum just a bit, which will rip my paper, but it's not a big deal because it's going to be hidden under my white clouds and you won't even see it. So I'm going to surgery this card up a bit and adhere that cloud underneath my vellum. And then I'm going to use some wet glue behind those edges of my vellum now that it is bent a little, and I'm going to hold it in place until that vellum is dry and I can trust that it won't pop up. And then I will pick up the release paper from behind those white clouds and adhere that to my sky scene. Now that my little scene is done, I'm going to glue that to the center of my card base just using some wet glue like I did with the darker blue cardstock, and adhering that right down onto my card base. And that is the great thing about dies and creating your own scenes. It's pretty easy. It just takes a little time running everything through your die cut machine. Now my stamped image is going to be that little duck that's upside down. I'm using my Ink on 3 Blackout ink, as this is my favorite ink to do some alcohol marker coloring. I'm going to be using my Spectrum Noir markers, and I'm going to stamp this twice. The first time I stamped it, it had a really good stamp except for a couple parts, so the nice thing about the Misty is that I can stamp it again and not worry about my paper moving, and it stamps very nicely. I'm going to be using the Quacky birthday sentiment, and I'm just going to use my Onyx black ink onto my quick strip. This is my favorite ink for sentiments. I don't have to worry about not getting a great clean stamp the first time because it is a pigment based ink. So I set that aside to dry, and then I am getting out my Spectrum Noir Illustrator markers, and I'm going to be coloring the feet and beak of my little duck in my golden yellow colors. So I started with my lightest color, which was GY1 or Moonlight, and then I'm moving on to my medium shade, which is GY3 or Gold, just to add in some shadow. And then my darkest is GY4, which is golden yellow, and just putting in a little bit more shadow into those parts of my duck, and then bringing back GY1 to blend all of that out, and that will be it for the yellows of my duck. For my duck, I'm going to color him brown, so I'm going to be mixing my GB and my EBs together. So I'm starting with GB2, which is caramel, and just adding that first layer. And then I'm going to move into my earth browns, EB2, which is a natural brown, and just add shadow into those wings. And then EB3, which is cocoa, I'm using that again as another shadow to my duck's wings. And then I will bring that caramel back out and I will blend everything together. Now there is a big difference between the GB and the EBs, so I will bring back that lightest of my earth brown just to add a little bit more of that shadow back into my little duck's wings. And I'm going to repeat this for the other side as well as my duck's body and face. Now inside of his beak, I'm just going to use a dark gray. I used IG10, which is just an ice gray 10. And then for his eyes, I wanted it to be a little bit of a hint of blue. So I use Duck Egg or AB1, and then I used a colorless blender just to blend that out so there wasn't a harsh line. I want my grass to kind of blend in with my cardstock, so I'm just going to use a few different colors here. I'm going to start with AG3, which is an emerald, and lay down a layer of green, then move on to LG3, which is meadow, and then top it off with CG1, a pale citrus, to give a little bit of yellow back into my green grass. I'm going to highlight using a white color pencil and then bring in my white gel pen from Pearlescent Press to add in some bolder highlights. I will fussy cut this image out and hug that dark line so that way there is a seamless look between my stamped image and my background. I placed my duck and my sentiment where I want them to go, and now I'm going to bring out my little action wobbles. I have the smaller set, and I am going to peel off one side of my wobbler, the side that will be against the card base, and it takes me a lot longer than I'd like to admit to peel off that release paper, but I get it off, and I'm going to place that in the center of my card just above that layer of light green grass, and then I will peel off the other side of my wobbler and adhere my duck right onto it, and there I have my little wobbling duck. For the Quacky birthday sentiment, I'm going to pop it up using some foam adhesive, and I'm just going to line the back of my quick strip, peel off the release paper, and pop that right up into the clouds of my card. Now that I have everything attached and everything is working, I'm just going to grab that bone folder and crease my card base. And here is my final card. I love it's so simple and so cute with this fun little wobbling duck. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that you check out Wobbles for yourself. Again, I have everything that I use down in my description. I hope that you like this tutorial and you'll click that like button. And if you're new to my channel, I hope I inspired you to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.